Hello, my name is Michele, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice.
On today's podcast, we're talking about trust, what it is, how to tell if you have it, and why it matters.
Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice.
Trust. I always love to start by defining terms so that when I analyze them, I really know what they mean. And so if we're looking into the definition, here's what it says. Trust is an assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. I'm going to read that one more time. It's an assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. And so on today's episode, we're going to unpack this because if we can't sell our trust to our clients, we're going to struggle through the entire process of working with them. If you have been in business for more than a hot second, you know that broken trust will break an entire project. The moment that we determine that we can't trust our suppliers or our vendors or our clients, or heck, even our own process ourselves, doubt starts to creep in. And then everything opens up for a hypercritical inspection. And chances are you've been on both sides of this. Neither's comfortable. I've been on both sides and I don't like either side. So let's look at how we create trust, and then let's look at how we keep it and what to do if it does get broken. In my own experience, as well as what I've seen out of my years of coaching, trust begins internally. So it begins with us trusting ourselves. That's what I mean by that. Trusting ourselves and then trusting the processes that we create before we can ever offer the service to a client. You'll watch, if you're out on Facebook or if you have conversations, people that are offering maybe their design services or workroom services before they're really ready. Maybe they don't have any of supporting documents, they're not sure what they're doing, and they're just excited, but then there's this trepidation that comes in at the same time. You can watch it. One of my prior podcasts a month or so ago, we talked about confidence and how we get confidence and keep it. And it is really built fundamentally on us trusting ourselves. I like to think of it this way. I trust that I know what I know, and I trust that I can do what I can do. And then I own it. I also trust that I've got people around me, and I trust the processes that I've created. It's not always been that way. Right? I think some of these things are trial and error that you don't just wake up one day and trust everything. I mean, this is a process. And so we're moving through it. Think about this. Do you really trust yourself in design or in your product or service offering? Maybe there are only certain aspects where you trust yourself, but maybe not in the full project. Identify those and start with those in your sales cycle. For example, if you trust yourself to pull together a family room, then you just sell family rooms. If you trust yourself to do full kitchen and bath renovation, then sell kitchen and bath renovation. But if you don't have some ability to trust yourself, you will struggle to go in and sell that to someone else. So start with what you know. Do you trust that you could deliver the outcome you're selling to your ideal client? If so, you're going to be confident in that sale, and you're also going to be able to deliver. But if you're not sure, you can trust this. Your potential client will smell fear on you. Do you trust your internal processes? If I went out and sold all of this, but I couldn't fit the need once it, or satisfy what I sold when they came into my business, I got a problem. So then I don't trust that I could really fulfill what I just sold to them. So are you ready with a sales pitch? And then do you have a process to handle the no, the yes, or the maybe? Do you have a process that onboards a new client or a process to collect their money? If so, those build trust so that when you sell it, you know that you can move through the process. Do you trust that your processes work? Have you tested them? Every time I start a new process, I go through a testing. They're not, again, all perfect at the beginning, but I try to get them to a point where I feel comfortable, and then I know that I can move out bigger. What about your supporting documents, your letters of agreement, your contracts, your terms, conditions, all those things? Do you fully understand them and trust that they're in your best interest? The worst thing I've ever seen is somebody get a contract. They didn't understand it. They borrowed it from somebody else. They cut and sliced and diced it because they weren't comfortable and didn't know what it meant. And then they didn't feel good handing it out, but they did anyway. And it really never covered them for anything because they couldn't trust it. Do you feel confidence in those due to that trust? All right, let's talk about money for a minute. Do you trust that you've priced it correctly, whatever it is you're offering, whatever the product and service is? Do you trust that you can build a budget for your client? Do you trust that you can talk to them about good spending and how to use that budget effectively? And then do you trust that you can manage the money well in your company? Because if you don't trust those processes, you're going to have a difficult time talking about money with your client. Because honestly, the client is really just engaging with you based on trust, right? You've probably all heard the term know, like, trust, that equation. And it kind of goes something like this. If they know you, they might figure out if they like you. And if they like you, they'll see if they can trust you. And if they trust you, they'll do business with you. Because here's the kicker. They can know you and they can like you and not trust you. And they will not engage in business because they are handing you a lot. They're handing you, think about this, they're handing you tons of money. They are handing you all the time on their calendar. They're handing you the outcome and deliverables of a beautiful space or a well-designed home or a well-staged home or the craftsmanship of a piece of furniture or window treatments. They are just handing you everything, trusting that you can get it done. And like confidence, if we don't trust ourselves and they can tell that, it is like blood in the water to a shark. I say that all the time. And they start to attack. And so you can start to see why we need to trust in ourselves. We have to trust in our team, our processes, our documents. We got to trust in our entire business, right? Now, this doesn't mean you have to do everything, but you have to trust what you've put into place. So what I want you to do is stop right now and take a moment. If you're near pen and paper, grab it. Because what I want you to do is write down everything that you trust in your business, starting with you. Get as detailed as you can get. What do you trust in your business? Okay? If you have to stop the podcast and go do it, that's perfectly cool. Make sure you come back because I'm going to tell you what to do with that. But seriously, take note of that. Do an inventory. What do I trust in my business? Because when you start identifying what you trust, you may very well also identify what you don't trust. And we can use some of the things that you do trust and create some positive affirmations that allow you to build your confidence and to continue to stretch and grow into new things. Because this is never meant to just stop and hold you back. For example, maybe you wrote down, I trust that I'm great at designing kitchens. Or I trust that my documents are fully supportive of my business and have been reviewed by professionals that I trust. I trust that I know my ideal client and ideal process, and that when my team and I work within these, we're able to give our best to our clients. I trust my vendors because they've been hand-selected and have a track record of working with us in the client's best interest. I trust my support team because they're focused on the same things I am. See how that works? Acknowledging what you trust builds confidence. And we're in a layering game. So now the more you know, the more you accomplish, the more you trust, the more you have confidence in, then the work just continues to increase. But write it down. And you remember how I said if you write down everything that you're confident in, or that you trust in, we may start to see things that you don't trust so much. That's okay. Take stock of that. Take note of it and write those down. And then ask yourself, can they be corrected or do you need to find a replacement? I want you to take a moment of reflection on your past sales and times in front of a client, maybe even during an implementation phase. Because trust has to go through the entire process from the first meeting to complete wrap up. And I want you to think about a time when you didn't trust some element of the process, or your staff or your team or even yourself. Anything, any part of it. All right, you got that? Okay, I want you to sit in that reflection for a moment. I want you to remember how you felt, how you struggled to build trust with a client or a vendor when you felt anything but trustful. I want you to think about, how did you present yourself? Was it a strong stance or was it a coward stance? Did your shoulders kind of turn in or were they back? Chances are you were less than upright and confident and excited. And usually fear is a tag-along buddy with distrust. Okay, now I want you to do it again. And this time I want you to think about a time where you had full trust and confidence in what you were doing and selling and offering or supplying. And I want you to reflect on how you presented yourself and your team and your process. Because my bet is that you were dynamic in your presentation and you were excited about the possibilities and the outcome. I know when I feel that way, I'm even more excited. And when a potential client reaches out to me and I understand their business issues, I know immediately if I can serve them or if I don't trust my experiences to be in alignment with their needs. I just know it. And when I do that, I can trust myself that I can solve their problem. It's a different me that shows up, the me that is not fearful. But if I am taking on work that I am not aligned for, that I know I cannot do, then the me that shows up is scared and I hold back. Think about where you're showing up. Where are you working? Are you working in an area where you trust yourself? Are you working in an area where you trust your team? Are you working in a way that trusts the processes, that trust all the supporting documents that you've created? Or are you working out of areas of distrust? Listen though, this does not mean that you cannot step out in faith. I am not saying that everything has to be fully buttoned up and 100% trustworthy for you to step out in faith in your business. But it means that you have the trust and the faith and the resources standing behind you that are going to support you when you step out. So don't let the idea of not trusting put a kibosh on you moving forward. Don't do that. Get a solid team, a solid support staff, and then trust them. If we're looking at the other side, have you ever had trust broken? I remember as a little girl, my parents said to me, "Don't you ever lie to us. Just tell us the truth, and it's always going to be better than the outcome of the lie." Of course, as a young child, and one that was a little bit headstrong, I know, hard to believe, I wanted to test that theory, and I realized that my parents could be trusted because lying made things doubly worse. At a minimum, it might have even been more than that. And so then when I had kids, I told them the same thing. Don't lie to me, or you're going to be in double trouble. Stand up, tell the truth, and take the initial hit. It's easier that way. And yes, they too tested the theory because they are my children, and they found me to be trustworthy in my assessment of what would happen. It's always worse when you compound it. So why do we tell our kids this? Why do we go through this whole conversation? Because it's true. Once trust is broken, it's difficult to get back. And I'm not just talking about telling the truth here. Maybe it's trusting that work will be done and then it's not. Trusting that the order was placed and it slipped through the cracks. Trusting that an install would happen on Monday and it didn't. Trusting that you know about the items you're specifying and then finding out you're not well informed. Thinking you could trust yourself to be motivated or excited and then you're not. Get it? Our clients trust us, again, every single day with large projects and lots of money. And we've heard horror stories of money being taken by designers, bills not paid, furniture not ordered, and mismanagement of funds. It's horrible. And believe it or not, broken trust can extend to an entire category of work. For example, when you hear the term used car salesman, no offense to used car salesmen out there, but when we hear that term, we conjure up an idea of what that means. And I will tell you, it's not usually the highest level of trust. Why do you think that is? Probably because somewhere along the way, some used car salesman had a sleazy reputation and it leaked all over that job title. We have all heard it in our industry too. And sometimes when we go in to work with a client, we're having to clean up a mess that a designer somewhere in the world has created before us. Like, we have to actually get them to trust us. You hear this with contracts, like people just walked in, they walked out, the job wasn't finished, they didn't listen, they didn't give me what I wanted, all of those things. And we are in the process in some ways of building this trust bridge before we can ever get the client to walk over it. But I'm telling you, if you will take the time to build trust in your own company, in yourself and in your own company, and then you will take the time to build the bridge of trust for your clients so that they've got an easy path to walk towards you and that it supports them, I'm telling you, they will be a relationship client for life. What we do matters. How we treat people matters. How we treat ourselves matters. So how do we rebuild broken trust? The first part's pretty easy. I'm going to say don't compound the issue. Be as honest as you can, own what happened, and then work to provide the best solution available. Don't lie. Don't lie to yourself, right? Now, we all make mistakes. That's just human nature. We're all going to have issues and problems. And it really comes down to integrity. Telling the truth early and often is always the best policy. Now listen, I'm not telling you to overshare. So we have to use common sense when we navigate in business. But once something shows up that is suspicious, I promise you, they get that magnifying glass out and sometimes they never put it back in the drawer. We want to keep them from getting out the magnifying glass because it's like anything, like an audit. They're going to find something, right? And so we just don't even want to open that. And sometimes that fear, remember that I told you, was a close buddy to trust? So that comes in and then makes us stick back and hold back, which is even worse. You know that list that you made earlier on about what you trust and what you don't? Use that. For all the things that you trust in your business, use that to create marketing messages. That's where you currently show up in your brilliance. Own it, offer it, and talk about it. For those areas where there was a lack of trust, make a plan. Let's say there's a product or service offering on that list and it's something that you really want to be able to offer, but you're just not quite ready. Ask yourself what you need to trust that you can offer or sell that product. What is it that you need to know that you don't know? Is it education or training? Maybe a trusted supplier. Maybe just somebody to come alongside you and help. Dig into that. Start building trust in areas that you want or need to succeed, and then own it. If you have a staff member or a support team member that you distrust, find out why. Ask yourself, can it be rebuilt? Maybe trust is because the expectations weren't set properly. Otherwise, maybe it's a character issue. Either way, you got to figure it out and do something about it. Don't let it keep going like it is. Figure it out and then act. Listen, I constantly work on building products and processes in my own business that I trust, and it takes time. This is a journey. This is not quick. But it starts a little at a time by learning to trust myself, by learning to trust what I have to offer, by learning to trust what I'm great at, by learning to trust how I'm made and what sets me apart and makes me unique. And it's the same for you. If you're struggling to trust yourself in business, please reach out to me and let me help you. My team and I would love to support you in this. And you can trust that we will. You can check out the Designer's Inner Circle on my website at scarletthreadconsulting.com. because my goal is to help guide you so that you can trust yourself and trust your decision making, which in turn will make you profitable in more than one way. Because as we know, profit doesn't happen by accident.